What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here with Rob Mazeika, taking a look at tonight's NBA slate. 7 games, a lot to kind of talk about here as far as, a couple of big names that are going to be out tonight or likely out. And also kind of some trade news still lingering. I feel like there's a lot of backcourts that are really crowded.
Yeah, definitely. We got LeBron who has strep throat. I don't think he's going to play tonight. Kyle Lowry's on the doubtful side, so it's some injury news to keep your eye on. Some high totals tonight. Golden State and Philly is 230 points, along with Indiana and Houston being 230 and a half. Those are the games where people are going to target a lot of people in.
Yeah, and I mean, I will be. I know the Sixers, obviously they don't look good on paper, but I mean, have been relatively competitive of late, even with them beat out. I mean, I still don't mind targeting that game.
Yeah, and they're still implied 7 points higher than their season average. So it's a good spot to find some value on, and even though they're 13.5 point underdogs.
Yeah, I think the only other game where there was blowout concern was Houston and Indiana. Houston was double-digit spread there, but I still think that game's going to be fine either way.
Same here.
So, looking at point guards tonight, and I feel like a lot of the top guys are kind of jumbled. If you're looking on DraftKings, obviously Harden and Greek Freak are there, but on FanDuel it's Curry, Irving, Thomas is kind of your top tier with Lowry out. I'm kind of gravitating towards Thomas just in that matchup against Schroeder, but obviously if LeBron sits, Irving's just your top tier option.
Yeah, especially if LeBron sits. Irving's your top option. I like both Thomas and Schroeder in the same matchup. They're actually the two worst defensive point guards in the entire NBA. So you might as well just stack the two of them and hope they just go back and forth trading buckets.
Yeah, and both guys under 5'10". I mean, battle of the small point guards tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably why they're the worst defensive point guards in the league.
Yeah, so I mean, I like both those guys a lot. I mean, obviously Schroeder at a cheaper price tag. I think reasonably both, as you said, you can stack them and feel pretty good about it, because I actually do like that game as kind of a game stack because I do like some of the front court options there in Atlanta as well.
Yeah, that game's expected to stay close too.
So outside of that, I mean, top tier guys, I'm not, in love with Dragic. Obviously Lowry on the doubtful side. I'm kind of sticking in that mid range. I mean, I like Ricky Rubio. I prefer him over Schroeder in cash games. Jeff Teague's an interesting GPP pivot as well from those names.
I like Rubio a lot tonight. Like I've been saying for the last couple of weeks since Levine's been out, Rubio's the one who gets the big boost. He's basically a walking double-double, about like 10 points, 12 assists a game. But with the added bonus on DraftKings and an easy matchup against Sacramento, it's definitely a good spot for him.
Yeah, it really is. And as you said, I mean, basically a double-double here just with his assists that just have been rising. Outside of that, I mean, I think the Kings backcourt has kind of slipped up here a bit. They're using a really deep rotation. It's all kind of cut into each other's minutes and upside. I'm not necessarily on it. I think I'm kind of staying away. I think the slate's large enough where you can just look elsewhere.
I don't think you need to go to the Kings tonight. Their prices are too high, with the exception of Lawson, but you just don't know with those minutes. It's a mess right now, and I'm probably staying away.
Yeah, I think Tyreek Evans is the only backcourt-ish guy that I'll be looking at just because his price is cheaper on DraftKings. FanDuel 6K is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm not going to be going there.
Same here. Little interest in Evans on DraftKings.
Yeah. With Lowry out, I mean, Corey Joseph's still in play. This guy's playing big minutes, 33 and 36 minutes in the two that he's missed. This is a guy who's going to be around 25 fantasy points. Decent spot. I mean, Knicks are middle of the road against point guards. I don't mind plugging him in. I don't think he's a must play like how he was the last two slates, but I definitely don't mind him again.
He should carry very high ownership. He's 5,200 on DraftKings. I have him pegged about 25 fantasy points tonight, which is 5x, which is serviceable for cash. But in tournaments, I'm preferring to pay up $300 more for TJ McConnell against the Warriors. Like we mentioned before, the Sixers are about 7 points implied, higher than their season average. McConnell, he could get a double-double with assists just like Rubio in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar type players, and we also see McConnell bring a little bit of steal upside as well. This is a guy who's averaging a steal and a half per game this season.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyone else you like here?
I got one guy at the bottom, Tyus Jones. He's minimum price on DraftKings, 3K, 3,600 on FanDuel. I prefer him over on DraftKings just because the value is a little bit better at 3K. He's been playing about 21, 22 minutes in these last two games. I have him pegged around 20 minutes tonight, and he's put up over 20 fantasy points in both those games. So if you need a minimum price punt to fit in like Harden and DeRozan and Antetokounmpo, whoever you want, he's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a punt call if you're going kind of stars and scrubs, which I actually do think is a viable option because there are a couple guys that we'll be talking about small forward that you can use.
Yep.
I'm going to shooting guard, and speaking of Harden, I mean, obviously before the break we saw a couple of big high total games. Recently, I mean, he's been pretty pedestrian. The turnovers have always kind of been an issue, especially over on FanDuel. I just think personally on FanDuel shooting guard, I'm just really fading Harden and looking to use Giannis and DeRozan just because of the cheaper price tags.
Same here. I'm locking and loaded Giannis on FanDuel and DraftKings, even where he's point guard, small forward over there. He's my top play in the slate tonight. He's owned the Cavs this season, and I just don't see them stopping him today.
I don't either. I mean, Middleton's out tonight. As that's really hasn't changed much. He's finally producing again. I mean, over 30 real points in the last 2 games, and if you want to even count the All-Star game, he's been over 30 points in 3 straight. So I'm with you. I mean, he's just that offensive show producer that Milwaukee has right now, and he's the only real logical option at that position.
Yep. And then the thing with DeRozan, his price on DraftKings is 8,900, but he brings about the same floor as Harden and Antetokounmpo, 40-point floor in a matchup against the Knicks, which is one of the best he's going to get all season.
Yeah, I mean, without Lowry, I mean, 44% usage rate this season, so it's just absolutely insane. He's a guy, I mean, I don't think I can fade him in cash games right now just because he is a cheaper, out of the 3 options. And even GPPs, I'm still hesitant.
Same here. He's just going to be one of the top players in the day. I really don't like anyone in this mid-range, though. I like people at the bottom, but no one really in the middle.
No, and I mean, I was looking last night, and I feel like a lot of these guys are a bit overpriced. Seth Curry, Wesley Matthews haven't been. Seth Curry's been okay, but Wesley Matthews has been kind of going back to his usual poor shooting ways. I feel like he's a bit overpriced, and I'm not really on that Dallas-Miami game anyway.
I'm not either. I like Jaylen Brown over on DraftKings, small forward on FanDuel, but he's going to be slotting in. He's going to be probably very chalky, but it's a great spot for him. He's going to get a lot of minutes, and he's easily going to hit his value.
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, Jaylen Brown, CJ Miles, both intriguing options, both in great spots, high totals there to target. And as you said, I mean, 25, 28 minutes is probably where you're going to find those guys. And I think Brown can lean towards even 30 on that slate. The Houston guys I do have some interest in, more on DraftKings, Lou Williams, Eric Gordon, 5K and 5,400. Getting minutes off the bench, with that high total, I still think both those guys will hit their value.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. There's only so many shots that can go around, but they're both in cheap price, great matchup. It's definitely possible they both hit value.
I don't think Lou Williams is really in play for me at 6,300 on FanDuel. I'd rather just use Gordon, who's 1,000 cheaper.
Yeah, same here.
So, outside of that, though, I mean, once again, I think FanDuel's a little bit tough to dive down below 5K. Kyle Korver, probable for tonight's game. I don't mind him. Ben McLemore's another one who I think is one of the safer bets for minutes, but he's kind of just a wild card.
I actually like McLemore a decent amount, but more on DraftKings where he's cheaper and he's small forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're looking at that, the multi-position eligibility really comes into play on DraftKings a lot more than it does on FanDuel.
Yeah, it makes things a lot easier.
So, anyone else there?
Not really. I have a slight interest in Justin Holiday just because the next day waived Brandon Jennings today, and he might get 24 minutes if we're lucky.
And he's the guy, when we've seen guys out, he's coming and produce. I mean, we saw it last game. I mean, 24 minutes against Philly, 27 DK points.
Yeah, he's nothing more than a deep tournament play, though.
Small forward, and this one, if you're on DK, obviously Giannis is one of the top guys that we're paying up for.
Yeah, Giannis, and then Paul George, and then there's really not much else.
No, I mean, Robert Covington's been really consistent. I mean, it's been the guy who's just really dominated each of the last 3 games. He's playing heavy minutes. I mean, 39 each of the last 2, shooting the ball really well. His steals are back up. I mean, that's the one thing that's really given him a really good floor.
Yeah, he does have a decent floor. The only thing that concerns me is that in the 14 times he faced an opponent who ranks top 10 in pace, he only exceeded 35 FanDuel points once. So his upside is a little bit capped just based on history, but like I said, it's tournament play. You could play him at cash, but I wouldn't recommend it. He's still a decent play tonight, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think more tournament only just because he's a good correlation play with some of those other guys. And as you mentioned, Paul George, I mean, the price tag's come down a little bit more just because he hasn't had a good couple of games of late. I don't mind using him. I think he's in line for a good bounce back spot.
We could hope after these last few games. He's been absolutely terrible, but his price is really cheap, and I'm really interested in him tonight.
Yeah, I am too. And, we kind of dive down on to some of these other small forwards. I mean, Jay Crowder, I don't mind. He was a guy who was kind of slipping for a little bit, bounced back last night in a really good spot. Atlanta's been bottom 5 against small forwards this year.
Yeah, and Jay Crowder is always a safe option. And then his teammate Jaylen Brown, which you touched on before, he's going to be the chalk on FanDuel at small forward.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want those cheap guys, I mean, you have one of the options. If you have the extra cash, you can go with Crowder. If you need to save a little bit more, Brown's there too.
Yep.
Outside that, though, I mean, I'm off. I feel like, Wiggins has gotten a little bit too expensive for me. Melo as well. Barnes, I'm not really intrigued with. Ariza, more of a tournament play. Once again, I just feel kind of mediocre about a lot of these guys.
Same here. Like I said, it's only really Giannis, Paul George, and everyone else for me at this position.
Yeah, basically in those and the 2 Celtics.
Yep.
Power forward. I mean, Saric has just been amazing of late. He's actually a guy I don't mind in cash games just because power forward's rather weak. If you have the extra cash, you can go that route. And actually, Golden State hasn't been really great against power forwards this season.
His price is at an all-time high. He's actually a really good player. I've been playing him for all season now. Whenever he gets minutes, his price is high. Great cash game play. He's even decent in tournaments just because he's going to get you around that 40 fantasy point mark and maybe even higher.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And what do you think about the other side of that, man? I mean, Draymond Green's been horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible, really, for the last 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Can't do it, even in a decent spot.
No, I don't think so. I just have other guys I'd rather pay up for other positions.
Yeah. And I mean, I think another couple guys that I'm intrigued with, I am a little worried about Millsap's minutes, 29 and 28 minutes. And I think Ilyasova coming over and playing has kind of dipped him down a little bit, obviously on the older side of his career. They might be kind of waning where, Howard and Millsap are going to just be kind of capped for minutes down the stretch.
Yeah, I think the pickup of Ilyasova is definitely just to rest Millsap and Howard a little bit more than normal.
So I don't know. I mean, I still like Millsap. I think they're in great spots. I see him and Howard as more just GPP plays tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely an excellent spot. The Celtics, they're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, and we've seen Millsap dominate them before. It's just we don't know what those minutes right now.
No, and when you can get guys, like James Johnson, Dirk Nowitzki, Serge Ibaka for about 1,000, 1,500 cheaper, who, are seeing more consistent minutes, have been a little bit more consistent, I don't mind using them in cash games instead.
Yeah, I like all three of them. They're all safe plays tonight. Dirk's my favorite on DraftKings because he's the cheapest, and he's been playing actually really well lately. And then you could even throw in James Johnson in there with the injury to Willie Reed. He might get his minutes back up in 26, 27 minutes. And he does a little bit of everything across the board.
Yeah, he does. I mean, obviously coming off a really strong game against Indy, had the poor game against Atlanta. A lot of that was due to foul trouble, couldn't get anything going. But as you said, I mean, this is a guy who's basically a 5-category producer.
Yeah, besides that, I don't really love much in the position.
No, I don't either. I mean, I have some interest in Ryan Anderson GPPs just because it's a really strong matchup for him. Obviously, Indiana, a bottom 10 rebounding team. They're bottom 10 against power forwards. And if Anderson can get hot, I definitely don't mind him.
Yeah, definitely tournament only because he's so shot dependent.
Yeah, it really is. Outside of that, though, not much really to look at here.
No, not much at all. Maybe a shot on Richaun Holmes, tournament only, though.
Yeah, I think Channing Frye is maybe another name you can look at, but I think he's actually always a great guy to fade in GPPs.
Yeah, because he always carries high ownership with Love out.
Yeah. Center tonight, Karl-Anthony Towns is up there. Not a priority. I mean, I do like him, but I don't think he's a must-play.
No, he's not a must-play by any means. He's definitely a tournament pivot to the other high-priced guys like, Harden and Antetokounmpo. So if you don't want to pay one of them and if you want to pair Towns and Rubio, it's definitely a good option.
Yeah, it is, and Hassan Whiteside's in a great spot as well. He's just a GPP guy for me just because I do like spending down at this position tonight. But really great matchup against Dallas. I mean, horrible rebounding team. And as you said, I mean, there's Nerlens Noel is probably the only guy who's actually a decent rebounder on that team right now.
Yeah, and he really doesn't even help them too much on that end. I'm in love with this mid-range, though.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, Dwight Howard in playing GPPs. My guy's Miles Turner tonight. I like him a lot. Houston ranks 30th against the position. They've been bottom 5 in fantasy points allowed this year. And he's starting to kind of turn it around again. So he's starting to show a little bit more of a floor. Crushed him earlier this season as well.
Yeah, Houston's given us some huge games to centers lately. I like Turner. I like Greg Monroe. I like Tristan Thompson. I like really everyone in that range. If I had to choose, I would definitely choose Turner as well.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I think Miles Turner at that price tag should easily hit, his 5x value, and I think even room for more. And Tristan Thompson's been really sneaky. I mean, averaging 31 DK points over his last 10 games. And Milwaukee's not a good rebounding team as well.
Yeah, I prefer to play him over Channing Frye 10 times out of 10 in tournaments.
Yeah, especially at a similar price tag right now. I don't think that makes much sense to go with Fry. I mean, he's 5,300 on DK, and Thompson's 5,700, and he's shown a higher floor and ceiling of late.
Yeah, definitely. And then we got guys like Willie Cauley-Stein and Jonas Valanciunas, who I also have interest in.
Yeah, I think those are all great. I think people are going to be off Cauley-Stein just because one last game. I mean, if you played him against Denver or you missed him on Denver and then played him against Charlotte, I'm sorry, because that's got to be a brutal blow.
The way it goes, but I mean, everyone who did that's just going to jump off him, and his ownership's going to be nice and low for a good matchup against Minnesota, who's actually giving up some big games to opposing big men.
Yeah, they have. And I mean, and as you said, Holmes as well. I think he's a guy, if Okafor gets into foul trouble again, which I think you got to kind of bank on that. He can come in and be a high fantasy points per minute player.
Yeah, definitely tournament only for Holmes. And then one guy I want to talk about a little bit is Valanciunas. In this matchup against the Knicks, he averages 12 and 12. His price is too high on FanDuel, but 4,900 on DraftKings is definitely in play for me in tournaments. The minutes are a little risky because he's not going to really see over 25 minutes, but he could produce in those 25 minutes and get you probably about 30 fantasy points in DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him obviously be a double-double threat when he's, on the cheaper side, and obviously carry a much better value. And obviously a good spot against New York, who's been dreadful against centers.
Yep.
So anyone else here at center? I mean, we usually linger on here more than anything.
Yeah, no, nothing else. We listed a lot of guys that we like.
Yeah, I mean, center's a spot, once again, on DK. Use two of these guys, and I feel like you can use two mid-range guys and spend elsewhere.
Hell, use three if you could.
So, yeah, I mean, with a lot of these eligibility guys, you could. So, anyone, I mean, who's your highest scorer? I mean, I think tonight we can stay above 10K because there are a lot of guys.
Giannis.
No
doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. Usually I like to differ, but I'm with you on that one. So
the matchup's just too good.
Yeah, and he's just been crushing. So that's gonna wrap things up here. Be sure to head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com for all the great tools and content.
Yep, good luck.